Actually, in like 97 seconds when the video catches up with me on the stream. Still not there yet. Still waiting.
Wow.
Still waiting.
You.
And still waiting. Oh, something's happening. There it is.
Do. Let's see.
Except I can't sound check Seth because he hasn't said anything this whole time.
Oh, sorry. I was not thinking about talking. I was diligently working to produce even more content for this show.
All right, so another 90 seconds, I'll be able to hear that and know if you're good. So you remember I joked about the Weird Al song getting pulled off of YouTube when we played it? It did.
Yeah?
They muted the audio for that show.
The whole show, huh?
Yeah, that's the way YouTube does it.
That's so many layers of lame.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I made the choice to do it, but it's just so sad. It was, I think I played 47 seconds of it or something like that. It was less than a minute. And their response to it is to wield the big hammer.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they've got to have something to do, so.
I gotta make sure I'm humming a fake tune or an original tune, otherwise they'll pull that down too. Here's an idea. Let me launch Audacity so we can record this thing.
That might be a good idea.
So, anything we need to discuss before we hit the record button?
Oh, well, we can talk about it after the show if we would like, but I've got a guest that I can get on at some point.
Okay. Well, I have a show topic already picked that I want to do next week, and Chris won't be here. His wife just told me.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought next week we were doing the interview with.
I thought it was the week after.
Ohio Linux, the 21st.
Okay, so we'll push it to the 28th then. Okay. I thought the interview was on the 28th. I didn't obviously go look at my notes.
Yeah, I just thought over the week I can even update the calendar, which I don't know why that thought never occurred to me before to say, hey, have an interview this week. But have y'all heard of the Kano, Kano?
Not until you sent that email.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, because I forwarded that to y'all.
It made me look at it and go, wow, what is this? I was definitely curious.
They are all ready to kind of be on it, so.
Well, that works.
What do you move and indent? That's Google Docs really needs to work on some things. Like in any other word processor, if you're indented in a bulleted list, you can hit enter and it'll move it over one. Google
Right.
Docs, it leaves a blank space with the same indentation. Which is fine.
Right.
It's just that nobody else does that. And so you get used to using, Word or even Abby Word or OpenOffice. But
Yep. It doesn't follow the norm.
Well, bummer. I was hoping I could get a free Kano out of the team by asking them about it. But
what is it?
looks like I'll have to buy one. It's basically a Raspberry Pi kind of tinker
Okay.
with like how to do like a speaker and kind of how to do some programming with it. So it's kind of designed to get people into building stuff with their computer and not just consuming content through some device. So I thought it was
That's
cool
radical
to have
thinking
them
right
on.
there.
I know. Weird. Thought it would be cool to get them on. Wow, this is like the 4th or 5th person who wants to do a thing in October.
Yeah.
Um,
Get seven shows in October. That's going to be a problem. And the
Yeah,
dude
well,
said he lied and said he liked EDL. That was cool.
well, I mean, I'm going to ask him about that. So I'm going to ask him how he heard about us.
Hey, after you
But,
sent him an email, he went and looked at the web. Well, see, what I liked was he actually used EDL. He didn't say Everyday Linux. So that implies some foreknowledge. I mean, he went to the website and saw that we abbreviated EDL, maybe. But at least he did that much.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. My upload is 92% complete. I guess it won't hurt anything to stop that or let that go. It'll end soon. I keep thinking there's something else, but I guess there's not. So let's just hit record and do this little thing we like to call a podcast.
All
I have
righty
hit
then, sir.
record.
Recording now.
Thanks to the beauty that is Amazon Prime, I've been watching old episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it's just when Seth said I have hit record, it was a very Worfian way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of how
No,
little
that would be I have hit record,
Yeah.
Captain.
I'm reminded of how little I liked Tasha Yar and how glad I was when she got killed. I know the geeks were in uproar when she died, but I was like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to look at her anymore.
I just thought it was cool that they killed a main character.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And speaking of Star Trek: The Next Generation, have you seen the rumblings around the interwebs of the Captain Worf movie?
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Haven't heard
apparently,
anything about
yeah.
that one.
How does a hothead like Worf ever become captain?
Well,
Maybe
I
he
mean,
tempers with age.
he's got for the Starfleet, he's got the inroads to the Klingon Empire, and for the Klingon Empire, he knows how to deal with the Federation.
Wow,
So,
I just had one
It's
of
the
those
best of both
how
worlds.
geeky are
It's
we
like-
moments. I stepped outside of myself and listened to our conversation and went, those are guys who never got laid.
He's the Hannah Montana of Star Trek.
Oh,
I thought of that and I just had to say it. That would have been great for the show, by the way.
yeah, I'm glad we're not started yet, frankly. Not unhappy at all about that. All right, so let's do this thing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux, episode 160. Wow, that's a lot of news. Recorded September 14th, 2014, and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and I am joined this week by my full panel of co-hosts, which of course includes your friends and mine, Chris, the Command Line Godfather Neves, and Seth, the GUI Kid Anderson. Hello, gentlemen.
Morning and salutations.
And welcome one, welcome all, welcome everyone.
That was redundant.
Well, I try to come up with something just off the top of my head, so I'm not
How's that
always
working
saying
for
the
you?
same thing every week. And as you can tell, there's not a lot up there today. So
All right, as the title implies, this is an all news episode. We've been giving news a short shrift. We've been not doing as many news stories lately since we switched the format and put them at the end of the discussion, which is a good thing because it gives us a deeper discussion, and that's why we did it. But we're left with all these news stories in the bucket. So some of what you hear tonight is recent, some is holdovers, and I think he put 785 of them in here, so we're not going to do all of those either, obviously. But hang in, stick around and listen to us babble about stuff that we don't know much about, because that's what we do. But before we go on,
It's fun that way.
I mentioned, a couple of months ago, 3 months, sometime back, the other day, as Aaron would say, that I got a message from ObiHi, Obi, the makers of the ObiHi device, saying that Google voice support is going away, and I was looking for an alternative. And I never really found an alternative I liked. I decided I was just going to write it out and make Google cut me off and then figure something out. Well, they didn't. The date came and went. I think it was March 15th. That name rings a bell. Ides of March. Probably not it. That was the day when the Emperor was killed, but I think maybe it was supposed to be the date Google Voice was going to go off too. But anyway, wow, just bad tonight. Just bad. That day came and went, and Google Voice continued to work on my Obi device. And so we've just kind of been waiting for the other shoe to drop. And this weekend, the other shoe dropped in the form of an email from Obi announcing that they are now partners with Google Voice. What the what? I mean, at first it was going to be unsupported, and now they're official partners. Whatever. So the good news is, if you've shied away from the Obi device because you were afraid that Google Voice wasn't going to be supported, now they're bosom buddies. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Obi is a very small, very inexpensive, like $40 device that you can buy from elementobi.com/Amazon. It connects to your home's broadband internet connection and to a telephone provider of your choice, in my case Google Voice, which gives you free international call or free North America calls in and out with a free phone number, with voicemail and call waiting and all the stuff that Google Voice gives you, all for a $40 one-time charge. Not $40 a month, $40 ever. And so Google Voice has been North America only. Now they're international. And so I think that's where the partnership comes in, because Obi is an international company. Now you've got all these devices all over the world, and so they're different rates depending on where you're calling. But say 5 cents a minute or whatever. So now they're right online with like Vonage, and they're trying to capture some of that that market, which I think is great because it gives me free phone service. So there you go.
yay!
Nice. That's awesome, though. I mean, it would be. I'll have to take a look at Obi and see if it's something I want to try now.
Yeah, they make a couple of different models. They make one where you can route a regular phone line through it for like if you just want to add a second line and keep your other line. They make one that has two phone numbers and two outputs. So you just plug a regular phone into it, right? My regular cordless phone, and they have one that has two devices. So you can have two separate lines. You could use one as like a free fax number for Google Voice because it does that. It's an amazingly simple device. It requires almost no power. It's quiet. There's two little blinking lights on it, and it uses there's no heat, no very little power, no sound, and it's a one-time fee for phones. Now the service is it's voice over internet quality, so it's roughly analogous to a cell phone. It's good enough. It's fine.
Yeah.
So you get your inbound and outbound calls. You dial out, and it says this is your the other person's caller ID, sees your Google Voice number. And I've had the same Google Voice number since it became Google Voice, when it went from being Grand Central. So I've had the number forever, and I wasn't looking forward to moving it or having to get a different number. Now I don't have to. So Google Voice is awesome. The ObiHi makes it awesomer.
Nice.
And I just want to point out, I'm refraining from breaking into the "everything is awesome" from the Lego
Thank you.
movie when
Thank
you
you.
said that.
You know,
Well, that's good because we might get taken down.
yes. Yeah, see, but that was enough for me to be singing it from now on. So, Seth, you finally finished your back-breaking labor of not so much love.
Well, that is right. You know, I don't remember if I've been lamenting on this show or just everyone else in my life about how my goats are gotten out and the tree had kind of fallen over and crushed the fence. And so over the past few weeks, I've got the tree cut up, and last week I was able to, I helped somebody move in the morning, and then I drove home and fixed the fence. So I was a productive person on Saturday, and I got to say, this getting up before 11 o'clock on Saturdays, not a fan of it.
You know, it's funny how that changes once you have kids. I slept until 10 on Saturday for the first time in years. I mean, the last time I did that, I had a fever of 102. But it was just all the stars aligned. The kids got up and went to play quietly, and I didn't have anywhere to go, and so I slept until 10 on Saturday, and it was amazing. But I remember the days when Saturdays were for getting up at noon.
I'm lucky.
Memories.
I'm lucky. I still get to do that every couple of weekends, depending on how things go Friday night. Because my kids are quiet players and they take care of themselves again.
Of course, I get up at 4:30 on the average day, so sleeping late to me is 8. If I get to sleep till 8, that's sleeping late.
I'm with you.
Okay. Enough about that. Actually, that's way more than enough. I wanted to say, if you've sent me an email or a voicemail or whatever recently about the topic of the file sharing show that we did 2 weeks ago, there's been so much feedback about that, and so much of it is so good that we're going to do a follow-up listener feedback show just on that topic, probably in 2 weeks. So that gives you some time, those of you who are lagging behind and haven't listened to that show yet, or if you've listened to it, had some thoughts and haven't written them to me yet, you got 2 weeks. So on the 28th, most likely, is when we're going to do this show, and we'll revisit the topic through your feedback and our responses to it. Because I was worried that topic would just devolve into internet flame wars, but that I underestimated our audience. Our audience is above that, and you guys proved me wrong there, and I'm happy to be wrong. The responses were well thought out. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but that's fine. We don't have to agree. But they were well stated, they were well thought out, they were intelligent, and mostly people were saying, thanks for having an adult conversation about this. Because typically it's one of those things where you're either an advocate of piracy in the name of freedom, or you're an advocate of tyranny in the name of the law. And very few people have ever just taken a real hard, long look at it. Very few people, in my experience anyway, have taken a hard, long look at it and said, what is right and wrong, not necessarily legal and illegal, and where do we draw the line? And so it was a good discussion. We enjoyed it, and obviously you guys did too. So keep the feedback coming, and hopefully that follow-up show will be a very good show.
Sweet.
Yeah, who knows? This could even launch a spin-off, torrenting podcast or whatever.
Something.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Since you can't even think of what we would call it, probably not going to be another show.
Sorry.
It's been a while since the Command Line Godfather stepped up and did a 30-day distro challenge, but he's ready to go once more. And your next challenge will be?
It'll be Manjaro. I figured since we had the guys on for Sonic the last, what was that, 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago?
Sometime in the past.
Yeah.
The other day.
The other day. I figured, you know what? I know it's based on Manjaro. We might as well give it a good old run. And I'm going to try it with the default install of KDE and then the LXQT beta that they have available and see what I think of it. So that'll be coming in the near future.
All right. More
Cool.
distro reviews, please. I've seen that comment a number of times. So here you go. And lastly, I just wanted to mention a member of our Everyday Linux family, a listener by the name of Richard. He's written in a few times. I follow him on Google Plus, and he and his wife are going through a tough time right now, and I reached out to him and said, basically, hey guys, I'm praying for you, and I just wanted you to know that, and you're in, I think, England, and I don't really know you, and there's not a lot I could do, but I just felt that I needed to let you know that you're on my mind. His wife is to put it bluntly, dying of cancer, and is to the point where she probably won't last the end of the month. So in his response to that was, I'd like you to let the Everyday Linux audience know what we're going through, because he feels a kinship with this group, as we all do. That we like to say that we're a family, and so a member of our family is in pain, and he wanted us to let you know. I'm not going to say his last name. I have a policy of not doing last names on the show. But Richard,
except for us.
Yeah. Well, you guys signed up for it. But Richard, our thoughts are with you. As I said, I told him that I was praying for him. He responded that he's not a religious guy, and so the prayers necessarily aren't in his wheelhouse. So positive thoughts and energy, whatever it is that you do for people who are in pain, do it for Richard.
Definitely.
So that's all I had to say about that.
Hey, Mark, or go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, the only thing I can say about that is cancer is evil, and I wish we could figure out a way to get rid of it. I've lost too many friends to that particular disease.
Well, my grandma died of cancer, and my dad has had it, so that's a perfect segue. I'm going to break the program just a bit. One of the news stories we were going to cover is Will Ferrell has launched an Indiegogo campaign called calls on gamers to launch a cancer. Basically, if you pledge $10, you get entered into a drawing, and the winner gets an all-expense-paid trip to play video games with him for a couple of hours. And the funds go to Cancer for College, which provides scholarships to cancer survivors. So, since we were talking about cancer, I figured I would throw that in. And it's, granted, it will be great when one day we find the cure for cancer, but in the meantime, cancer is one of those things where, it's not like I can go out and beat up somebody to make you not have cancer anymore, but this is, you get so frustrated because you can't do anything. This is a way you can kind of do something.
I appreciate Mr. Farrell's modesty here as he says, quote, our 2-hour gaming extravaganza will be live broadcasted on Twitch for the world to watch, allowing everyone to watch in awe as I, Will Ferrell, show off my gaming skills and crack jokes with fellow top gamers and surprise guests. So that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, nobody would pledge to come out to Fruitvale and play games with me, but it would be cool to play games with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
So
that's great. Thank you for bringing that up, Seth. Often we do cancer research and things like that, but there isn't a lot for the people who've expended their life savings beating the disease. So I like that he's doing that.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine has beat cancer twice now, 2 different types of cancer, and my sister-in-law was a cancer survivor. It's a terrible thing that affects a lot of people, and if $10 from everybody in our audience will make a difference, go do it. There's no excuse not to spend $10 on this campaign of Will Ferrell's. Plus, you could end up hanging out with Will Ferrell. That's worth $10.
Yeah.
For an attempt, definitely.
All right. Any other comments before we move on to the listener feedback?
No. I'm good.
So we only have, I think, 4 tonight, but they're long ones. So we went with quantity over quality, or wait, that's not right. We went short but long. No, that's not good either. So I'm just going to jump right in here. Brian says that corporations have rights. Now this was a relation to something I said, I think, around the Aereo case. We talked about other Supreme Court cases, and I made the comment that I don't like the fact that this Supreme Court case confers human rights on corporations. So this is Brian's rebuttal to that. It says, Mark, a couple of weeks ago you mentioned that you don't agree with the idea that corporations have rights. I know it sounds strange at first, but think of what happens if they don't. Does the Washington Post Corporation have a First Amendment rights? This is close to home because my wife writes for the Washington Post. Can they print whatever they want? Could they be closed down for printing things that the authorities don't like? What about the Fourth Amendment? The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause. Does this apply to a newspaper? Or can the government raid newspapers' offices and seize whatever's there without a warrant for any good reason? Corporations are owned and controlled by people. People don't forfeit their rights when they work through a corporation. I'm employed by a corporation, but I got the job by interacting with real-life people who represent that corporation. It's still people behind the legal fiction, and that's what corporations have. Why corporations have to have rights. Best wishes, Brian. Brian, I don't disagree with your sentiment there, but everything you said there involves the people who work. The people don't give up their rights because they work for a corporation. That's correct. I agree with that. But Ford Inc., as an entity, I don't believe has a right to free speech. Every person who works there does. But Ford Inc. is not a person. And I understand that in the U.S., in terms of U.S. law, I'm wrong. That's been proven over and over again that corporations have certain rights. But I think it's a distinction that we need to make that the people who make up the corporations have rights, not the corporations themselves, because that provides too many opportunities for people to hide behind the actions of a corporation, and too much evil can be done legally in the name of a corporation because no person has single responsibility for it. So yes, you're right under the law. I don't like the law. I think we need to find a better way to describe the actions of a group of individuals or the rights of a group of individuals. That's, your wife who writes for the Washington Post, she has First Amendment rights. She can write that thing. I don't believe that the Washington Post as an entity has a First Amendment right to publish it. Again, the First Amendment is one of those totally screwed up, misappropriated rights. The right to free speech says Congress shall make no right abridging the free speech. That's a partial quotation there. It's not about you having the right to say what you want to say. It's not about the Washington Post having to face a libel suit for insulting somebody. It's about Congress making laws that censor what you can and can't say. And that's it. That's as far as the First Amendment goes, or the Fourth Amendment for that matter. So your local police force is not Congress. And I know I'm coming at it from a very strict constructionist point of view, and that's not popular right now. It was more popular in the 80s than it is now. But I think it's important that words mean things. So before I turn this into a constitutional law class, I'm just going to leave it there. Guys, what do you think?
Well, I've already been on record saying I don't think corporations should have. The corporation itself should be protected by rights. The people in the corporation are protected by their own rights already. So why do the corporations need rights? But that's just my thoughts on it.
And I think the reason, Chris, is because it's easier. It's just easier to confer rights on an entity. Because it's really tricky when you have a million people inside an organization, and each of them have their individual rights that are sometimes conflicting with one another.
Yeah. But that's the way the world is supposed to work, at least in my thoughts.
I know that they need some type of rights. Now, whether those rights are constitutionally guaranteed or merely lawfully guaranteed, that would be a matter for discussion. But a corporation needs to have some type of rights, some type of legal recourse.
Right, there are protections.
Wrongs.
There are legal protections. I agree with you, but that's not the same thing as a constitutional right.
Okay, then. Okay, so I don't disagree with what you've said then.
Yeah, and what bothers me is when the Supreme Court starts invoking constitutional rights on non-citizens. A corporation is not a citizen. There is no writ of citizenship. There's no birth certificate. There's no green card. There's nothing that says Ford is a citizen of the U.S. So you can't confer rights of a citizen on it. Legal protections, I'm fine with that, but those are at the often at the local level or the state level, and the federal government should just intervene when states can't agree. That's how it was supposed to be when the Constitution was written, that the federal government only intervenes when there are disputes among states. Again, that's a total reductivist, and there are people out there screaming at their podcast playing devices right now. But I'm trying to make it simple to get through this segment. And it bothers me when we start treating non-humans as humans.
Right.
I mean, and it gets even worse when you start treating non-human non-citizens as citizens, right? Where we talk about rights for terrorists. They don't have any rights under the Constitution. They are not citizens. They are rights under the law, that certain laws are given to people who are visiting our country, but that's not the same as a constitutional right.
Right.
Okay. I can't think of a way out of this deftly, so I'll say Spork Saber has the goods on Chris. I think he's got you, Chris. I don't think there's any way around this.
Uh-oh.
He says, "Hey, Mark, this is another attempt to get Chris to eat a ghost chili live on the show. After I was correctly accused of cheating on EDL episode 156, I've seen the error of my ways and been searching backwards through your podcasts for a time when Chris says he likes Windows. So here's my second attempt." He's got a time code and everything. On EDL 84, during the opening segment, at 5 minutes and 59 seconds, Mark is talking, and Chris says, Mark says, recovering broken installs of what operating system? Chris says, guess. Seth says, Mac OS. Chris facetiously, my favorite operating system in the world. Then after a pause, he continues, decidedly not so facetiously in the least, the only reason I like Windows is because it makes me money. End of transcript. Okay, I realized that was what Chris first said, was that the operating system he's working on was his favorite operating system in the world. He was being sarcastic. I'm not trying to count that as admission that he likes Windows. The second half of this protracted statement, however, he does admit that he likes Windows. That is accompanied with the caveat that he likes it because it makes money, but he does not admit that he likes, but he does admit that he likes Windows. Sudo Chris at EDL-host eat ghost pepper-H-V. Spork Saber.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know if I could fight that one off. That was pretty...
I think he got you.
I think he did too.
Yeah, I haven't gone back and listened to that episode, but I that's your only defense at this point, to see if he got his transcription wrong, because he's got you nailed to the wall, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I have a feeling I'll be eating a ghost pepper. I better go buy one or two.
Oh,
I think all of us should, but I know I can't
Whoa!
force you guys to do it.
I never made such a promise.
Nope.
Come on, I think it'd be fun. All of us do it at the same time.
If we get 1,000 people to donate $10 each to the American Cancer Society, I will eat a ghost chili.
There you go, guys.
How would they quantify to prove that it was? See, you've got to.
We can work out the details there, but you could, for example, when you donate online, they send you a thanks email. Forward it to me. Something like that. I need some sort of proof that we're doing good here. But if we raise $10,000 for the American Cancer Society, I will eat a ghost pepper while sitting in a vat of ice water and singing.
What you've got to do is you've got to make like an Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah.
So
it's tracked.
1,000. Yeah. So now there's 1,000 people giving at least $10. That would be cool. You should do that now.
Yeah, I will consider that.
So everybody rushing out to donate. Let's hold on. till we get the Indiegogo campaign.
I'm fine if my personal suffering ends the suffering of others. I have no problem with that. And if my being in misery will bring $10,000 to a good cause, I'm all over it. All right. Moving right along, Craig says hello. And this is a long one, and Craig, I'm probably going to excerpt it at points, so don't get offended. He says, hello, Mark, Seth, and Chris. Number one, I appreciate your show. Within the last year, I started having to travel 12 hours every other weekend, and your podcast has made this bearable. No arguments from this guy about a longer show.
Wow, so he gets through 1 or 2 a month now.
Yeah. He can get through 2 shows a drive. On a good drive. Number two, Mark, I appreciate that you're open about being a Christian and attending church and repeatedly making notes of it during your shows. Thank you for that. I wasn't really aware that it was repeatedly, but thanks. With that said, I wanted to chime in a little bit and introduce myself and possibly start providing some feedback. My name is Craig, and I live in a small town in northwest Arkansas. I work for a small school district, 1,450 students. By the way,
I just got to stop. That's
not small.
That's not a small school district.
Your small school district is twice the size that my small school district was. As the network administrator, I'm a Linux and open source advocate and firmly believe in freedom. Who doesn't? Well, Stalin, maybe. I wanted to let you know that what I'm doing and try to make a difference. Over the last year, I've implemented Ubuntu 12.04. That's going way back there, but it's their long-term support. I get it. At our school district for any machines that could not support the Windows 7 upgrade. In the 6-month period, I phased out all Windows XP and replaced it with Ubuntu 12.04. My project started with a cart of Asus notebooks we purchased years ago with a special grant. And then he gives the specs of the problems. They can't run Windows Pro. I decided to go down the path of bringing Linux to the enterprise and figuring out how to manage these machines within our network. I started with the netbooks, and the feedback from the kids was immediately. They loved having something new. We are Google Apps for Education District, so Google Apps in the browser is our main focus. I customized the Unity launchers to have the main programs they need. And I sat several students down in front of each one and asked several basic questions. If you want to get to the internet, where do you go? If you want to open your files on the server, where would you click? If you want to create a new document, where would you click? If you want to create a new spreadsheet, where would you click? If you want to shut down, what do you think you would do? Everybody got everyone right. You launch Chrome, you go to the files icon, you click on LibreOffice, so they got it all right. I now have more than 125 Ubuntu machines in our district running Ubuntu 12.04 joined to the domain using Likewise Open, configuration management using Puppet, and their local home directories using GVS mounts and Symlinks, and auto-launching Chrome to students' intranet page. I'm giving children direct exposure to Linux every single day without complicating their lives. I chose to stay with vanilla Ubuntu with Unity as it was easy to customize for all users because I want the kids to be exposed to what they would get if they went straight to Ubuntu. After that, if they had enough interest or curiosity, they could choose something like Mint. I demoed this to my administration by setting up 2 laptops, Windows 7 and Ubuntu side by side, and asked them to sign in both machines. Then asked them to create a document in Windows, save it to their My Documents, and go back and forth, yada yada. We use CloneZilla to image our Ubuntu workstations. Takes about 15 minutes to image one, and I have it in Puppet. Puppet is a enterprise administration suite. You don't know that. So in 15 minutes, you can image it and have it ready to go. I don't consider myself.
Actually,
go ahead, Seth.
I was going to say Dawn, who I interviewed for the show. She's the community director of Puppet.
Oh,
so
okay. Oh, wow.
He says, I don't consider myself an uber geek, although I enjoy uber geek stuff. I believe that my personality is a bit of everything, and I appreciate your show. Excuse me. I believe that personality is everything, and I appreciate your show because it's more about your guys' personality than it is about Linux. A person with a positive attitude, ability to get along with others, and willingness to learn stuff is more valuable, in my opinion than anyone that knows their stuff. Thank you again for being real, Craig. Thank you, Craig, A, for being a listener, and B, for doing the good work of Linux. I think you did it right. You started small, you got admin approval, and you showed people that there isn't a difference. When I tried to move Linux into my school, I did it wrong. I threw it out there and I said, "Here, kids, go to town on it." The kids liked it. The teachers and administration didn't, and an order from on high killed it. So I think you did right there, showing the admin, look, it's the same thing, and it works.
Yeah. I would definitely give you kudos. You did it the best way you possibly could have.
too many times people that you hear the cry, well, Windows is what they're going to use in the quote real world. And I always think that's the dumbest thing ever when you're talking about a third grader. Whatever he's going to use in 8 years when he graduates doesn't exist right now. Why are we even having this discussion? We can get him something that works now for no cost.
That's the thing. The people who use that argument are only repeating what they've heard before, because when I was in school district and I was talking about open office, he made the comment, well, Windows is what they use in the real world. And I said, and this guy's a little older than me, and I said, really? So how has Office 2010 changed since you learned it? And then his response was, "Oh well, but it's what we teach, so it needs to be used." Yeah. So
the argument changes once you defeat it.
Yes, it just shows that people, and this is why discussions are so hard. Nobody thinks about the topic. You take whatever side you like, and you just repeat ad nauseum what you've heard other people say, thinking that they were qualified to give an informed opinion.
Yeah, Mark Twain once said, many people think they're thinking when they're merely rearranging their prejudices.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
All right, so moving on to the news of the recent times, not necessarily the week. We talked last show, I think it was, about Red Hat CEO Brian Stevens' rapid departure from Red Hat. Well, now he's told us where he's going to go and why.
Yeah, whenever we talked about it, it was a big question because he had just merely been erased, but now he now works at Google. So that's why everything was quiet when he left, because he wasn't trying to say I'm leaving Red Hat and going to Google. He was just like, I'm leaving, and then later he turns up at Google. So I don't know, maybe he got a bigger paycheck. I don't know, maybe he likes the office perks there. Maybe he just wanted to move across the street in California. But anyway, it wasn't like a big conspiracy thing that there was a lot of stuff in the Linux blogosphere about it. He simply changed jobs.
Well, and so everyone's going to do it anyway.
He was CEO, right? Am I remembering correctly?
No, I think it was CTO.
CTO, okay. So it's sort of a step down in title, at least, because he's not chief anything at Google.
Right.
But Google's a much bigger organization.
Yeah.
So, do you want to be the big fish in a small pond or a smaller fish in a much bigger pond where you have room to go? It's kind of like a goldfish. A goldfish will grow to the size of the tank. You take an old goldfish and you change it out of a little tank into a bigger one, and it mysteriously starts growing again.
Thank you for that biology lesson. And
you're welcome. Everyday science.
Interestingly, though, African cichlids continue to grow regardless of the size of their tank. So you can have a big Oscar in a tank so small that it can't move.
Really? I never knew that one.
Yeah, it's true. Next up, there was some news this week about Apple doing some things. I missed most of it. It didn't really seem all that important to me. I think maybe they have a new device or two.
Yeah, apparently, I don't know. There was some type of announcement out of their facility. I'm not sure what it was. No, they announced the iPhone 6, and contrary to popular belief, you don't need a small iPhone, apparently. You need a bigger one. So now they don't know what you want anymore. I think this is the beginning of the end for Apple. They're not able to tell you what you want. They're actually putting a couple of different things out there and saying, hey, if you want either one of them, go for it. So I think it's the beginning of the end.
In a related story, there was a 3.2 magnitude earthquake felt in Southern California as Steve Jobs began spinning around in his grave. He always said Apple will never sell a large phone. Nobody wants a large phone. People want small phones. And so what does Apple do? They release a 5.5 and a 6-inch phone.
Yep.
And a friend of mine today at church asked the question, what do you think about the new iPhone? I pointed at my wife's 3-year-old Galaxy S3. I said, it's that phone.
Yep.
Yeah, and actually there's an article over at Reddit, or not Reddit, Ars Technica, where he charts the Nexus 4 from 2012 and lists all of its features and then all of the brand new features of the iPhone 6. And he was like, "Congratulations, Apple! You've invented the greatest phone of 2012."
Yes.
So it was just kind of a funny thing. But yeah, so the kind of what they've done, they've announced it and it's out there. And of course, even the Free Software Foundation got in on the act. A article, they posted, any publicity is good publicity, and they just talked about how, yay, it's a win for consumers. Digital restrictions management locks people out, and anyway, it just they have a press release, you can read it. But yeah, the big news, and of course, the thing is, you watch the media. And all of these features that Apple's putting in the phone have never been seen before by anyone ever. And
Tap
it's the
to pay,
thing.
NFC paying. It's amazing. Nobody's ever done this except Google Wallet in 2009.
Yes, and apparently they have smart watches now that you can wear, and they're apps for them.
Let's talk about the watch. This watch is not a smart watch. This watch is a dumb watch. Because it can do almost nothing without an iPhone nearby. Now, that's true of other smart watches as well. The Pebble watch is not as good unless it's paired by something. But this thing, as far as I know, doesn't even tell time without an iPhone connected to it. And
sweet.
Yeah, it's just...
That sounds great.
That somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong about that, and that's fine. But one of the things I do remember reading is it turns itself off. The screen blinks to save battery. What? I want to be able to look at my watch and see what time. My watch runs for 5 years on a battery, and the display never goes off.
Right.
We're stepping. When you move from a dumb something to a smart something, it's supposed to be better. And so far, this new batch of smartwatches has not been better.
No.
And this one of my many complaints about the Apple iPhone, I called it a semi-smartphone because if you wanted to do anything to it, you had to link it to a computer and do something through iTunes. Now they've since addressed a lot of those features, and you can update it remotely. You can
years
update
after
it
Android,
without,
by the way.
Yeah, but they were the first to do it. So they've invented a semi-stupid watch now that their marketing department, and they have several divisions of their marketing department. There's Fox, there's NBC, there's ABC, Reuters, AP. All the divisions of their marketing department are saying the exact same thing, putting on a united front to show how great it is.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. The Free Software Foundation wants to also become the Free Hardware Foundation. Kind of.
Yeah, they are. They've released this announcement, or the Free Software Foundation and Debian have joined forces. Basically, they're putting out a database that shows you how open the hardware is, and like the drivers form and everything is for the software. And they talked about how some of the purists don't like Debian because you can load non-free software,
right.
But Debian points out that the official repositories are all free. So and are all like free, as in speech free.
Right. No binary blocks.
Yeah, but that's just So if that is a big deal, and for most people it's not, but if you're looking for the source of non-DRM type things, open standards, open compatibility, all that kind of stuff, Debian is partnered with the Free Software Foundation, and they're maintaining the H-Node, which is, I can say, it just tells you where you can find free software.
Yeah,
free hardware.
Yeah, well, it's not so much free hardware; it's hardware that will work with free software. That's a problem people run into all the time. I bought this laptop, and I want to run Debian on it, and it works fine except the network card, or it works fine except the touch screen. And from reading this article here, it looks like it's just a database of stuff that will work with other stuff. And so that's useful, but wouldn't it be better to just make your stuff work with everything?
Yeah,
right.
So.
But you can't do it if the people who make this hardware don't release the stuff, and
right.
so
it's not Linux's fault that Broadcom drivers suck. It's Broadcom's fault, because they will not only will they not release a driver, they won't even release reasonable specs. Everything that's ever been done with it has been by reverse engineering, and saying, well, if I send 5 volts here, what happens? Oh, I need a new Broadcom adapter. Let me send 3 volts to this next one and see what happens. That's that's an exaggeration, but that's how it works. So yeah, it's not Linux's fault, but it's still, what I think this does is highlights the deficiencies in the operating system more than helps anybody.
Well, the first part of the problem is to show people the problem. So, that's half the battle, Mark, and it's one of the many halves of the battle, I know. But half the battle is showing people, hey, this is a problem, so that way we can come up with, and so if this puts some small bit of pressure because people want to get on that list, then it's not a bad thing. But, if all it does is point to the glaring deficiencies of, hey, look, you can't do wireless if you run Linux, then it is a bad thing. So it's up to the market. We, the people, must be a force for change. Yay, people.
What is also often a force for change is sci-fi. So many things exist today because they were predicted in science fiction novels or TV shows. For example, the flip phone that Motorola invented was a direct ripoff of Kirk's communicator from Star Trek. The guy who, I can't remember his name, who invented it will tell you he wanted a Kirk communicator, so he worked for Motorola and created the cell phone. Well, a guy has decided he wants his own automated car, and he's going to get there with a Raspberry Pi.
That is correct. Raspberry Pi enthusiast Derek, I'm going to go with Knaggs.
Works for me.
Knaggs. He was inspired to create a low-cost in-car computer using a Raspberry Pi. Now, we did a story, it's been quite a while ago, where somebody had took Android and customized it to look like the interface from KITT. But this is, he's kind of used Pi, and then he took like a little, you can buy these kits to put DVR or
DVD players.
DVD players like on the back of your head seats for long trips, so the kids in the back will be entertained. So he kind of took apart one of those to get the screen output for his Pi, and he uses like a Bluetooth keyboard, and he kind of stood up, and I just thought it's pretty cool. He talks about how much the camera, how much it costs, and he even added like a camera, so he set up like a reverse camera, so if you put your car in reverse, you'll see what's behind you.
And
so I just thought it was kind
he's
of cool.
a long way away from the Knight Industries 2000 for sure.
Definitely.
But it's cool. It's got geeks playing with cool stuff, and I'm all about that.
But it was the Knight Industries 2000. It wasn't the Knight Industry 1. So
yeah,
got to start somewhere. Sorry.
It's funny how all these sci-fi shows have intelligent personalities, right? There's Jarvis in the Iron Man suit. There's KITT, and going all the way back. But I think once we finally get there, we're gonna find them so annoying we will turn them off. When we finally do get Cortana, she will be switched off most of the time because it's like, I don't need another wife nagging me. Shut up. That's what I think will actually happen.
It's going to be more like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. What was the robot?
Marvin, the paranoid android, yes.
Yeah, it'll be more like Marvin than the utopian Enterprise computer.
The Enterprise computer was perfect because she didn't say anything until you spoke to her.
Right.
But, in other, not saying that women should be like that, but computers should be like that. Moving right along, prominent Linux kernel developers has been jailed by protesting publicly in Moscow's Manza Square against the conflict in the Ukraine.
Crazy.
Yeah, I just, we talk a lot about just the Linux kernel developer has this abstract concept. Just wanted to show that, this is somebody who doesn't just sit in a darkened basement hunched over a screen tapping things in some VI terminal somewhere. But he actually, he was protesting Russia's involvement in the conflict in the Ukraine, and he got arrested, and there was apparently some type of quick trial and got sentenced to a few days or a time in jail, 15 days in prison for disobeying a police officer. So I just wanted to show that, this is like a kernel level developer from Linux who is out making the world a better place and not just the cyber world a better place.
And you would like to make the cyber world a better place. Our friends over at the linuxacademy.com. It's a terrible transition. It was the best I could come up with. It's the only Linux story in this batch here. LinuxAcademy.com is a site designed to take you from being a guy who knows some stuff about some stuff to being a Linux administrator by way of their step-by-step online video courses. They have well over 200 courses now covering everything from basic Linux use to software to Amazon Web Services to certification training. You can get your full-on Linux Plus or LPIC Level 1 training all through their site. You go there, you log in, you check out the modules, you learn stuff. I've gone over this over and over again. I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes about them, but here's the basics. It's high-quality learning presented in a high-quality fashion, independently certified. It's not just me saying that. It's the folks at CompTIA who do the certifications, went through here and audited their stuff and said, yep, this is good stuff. And it's the guys at the Linux Professional Institute did the same thing. It's not just videos, though. It's not just like going to YouTube and getting a video of a 15-year-old kid doing a tutorial on Blender. That darn kid is so much better than I am at Blender. It's professional people producing professional content, which is a bonus, right? But not only that, it's more than just videos. It's individually time-coded PDF study guides. So if you're a visual learner, if you're a guy who likes to hold a piece of paper in your hand and read, print that sucker out, look at it, and look at the time code. When you get to something as you're reading along, you say, I'm not really sure I understand this. Look at the time code, go to the video, watch it, learn from it. And while you're doing that, if you want to do it, if you're a hands-on kind of guy, fire up one of the 8 different virtual machines that they give you, fire up a server, test it. Say, all right, he did this, pause that, do what he did, move on, pause it, do what he did, look at your sheet. Then when you're done, you have walked through it, you have internalized it in 3 different ways. You've seen it, you've read about it, and you've done it, and now you know it. Nobody else on the internet that I know of does that. Linux Academy is unique in that they give you multiple ways to learn the same things for different types of learners. I spent a lot of time in education. One of the things that we always talked about was multiple intelligences. People are good at different things. People learn in different ways. The LinuxAcademy.com knows that. They know that you may need more than just a video. They know that you may need to do something and do it with your own hands-on way of doing it. And the beautiful thing about their virtual machines is you wreck it, you blow it up, you just hit the reset button, it comes back in about 30 seconds and you start over again. It's a safe environment to break stuff. And I learned more in my experiences when I was trying to figure things out by breaking stuff than I ever did by watching a video or by reading a tutorial. Mm-hmm. Linux Academy lets you break stuff in a safe way. Then when you're done, you look through it, you take the practice exam, you say, I'm done, I've got this. I'm ready for my certification. You take the practice certification exam, you pass it, you're ready to go. You go on, you take your real thing, and because their learning is so thorough and because their practice exam is so much like the real exam, you're going to get certified. It's happening every day. Check them out, linuxacademy.com. When you get there, you're going to see that not only is this really good stuff, but it's inexpensive. I don't like to use the word cheap because cheap generally means poor quality. These guys are both high quality and inexpensive. The most you can ever pay for their services is $25 a month. That's the most you can pay. You want to buy 1 month, shuck out $25, the cost of a pizza and a half, assuming you don't get the gourmet mellow mushroom pizza that's $75. And you're in for a month. If you like it, you decide you want to stick around for a while, buy a quarter, 3 months. Then it's only $20 a month. If you're really in for the long haul and you really want to make this a career opportunity here and not just something you're going to dabble at, buy a year for $199. That breaks down to under $17 a month. Are you kidding me? This kind of material for $17 a month is unheard of. When you go, check them out. Use the code EverydayLinux. Let them know that we sent you. And moving on now to... Go ahead, Seth.
No, I was just gonna. I was just going to say the $25 a month, you can't go out for an evening by yourself for $25 a month now. If you're stuck in some crummy dead-end job, invest one night of going out, give the Linux Academy a run, and you will see it's awesome. If you're willing to put the time in to learn it, it'll give you the tools to make yourself successful, and you can't beat this price for this level of learning. So there you go, Mark. Short and sweet.
Good. We like short and sweet. Apparently we don't. That's why we do 7-hour shows. So next up, when free goes to pay, the Synergy project. Wait a minute. I love Synergy. This is a problem.
Yes. Apparently everybody loves Synergy, but nobody was paying for it. So the founder and CEO of Synergy posted if you go to synergy-project.org/download to download their software, he is saying that they've made the decision to charge a one-time fee of $4.99 to download Synergy, and that buys the current version and access to all future versions. So you're not doing a monthly license of their software. Basically you're buying the right to use it, a one-time fee of $5. And if this is one of those things where we had this discussion months ago, we love using stuff that costs other people money to produce, but we don't like paying for it. Well, we had the opinion we need to pay, but apparently a lot of other people haven't, because 2 1,000ths of a percentage choose to donate to their project that actually use it, apparently. So, they want to be able to continue to release quality things, and in order to do that, they're moving to a pay model, but it's a one-time fee. It's a very small fee, and hopefully, this will contribute so that you're accustomed to seeing in Synergy.
And yeah, Synergy is a good thing. What I wonder about though is, on my Linux machine, I typed apt-get install Synergy and it was there. How are they going to charge me $5 for that? Maybe they're assuming that everybody wants to connect to at least one Windows machine. I don't. If you don't know what Synergy is,
That could be.
it lets you connect one keyboard and mouse to multiple computers. It's how I run the show. I do, I've got 3 laptops here, and I have Synergy running, and so I just swipe my cursor over to one side, and it over the network connects to that device, and then I swipe it to the other side, and over the network connects to that device. And it's an indispensable tool for the way I like to work. So much so that as I'm speaking right now, I'm clicking the purchase button because I'm with you, Seth. You should pay for what you use. So done and done. But I think it's going to be interesting there is he going to take it out of the repositories and make you go download it? What's he going to do about all the old code that's already out there? This will be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
That's interesting because, I mean.
So I don't know. Maybe
if he's going to start knocking everybody's paid versions, I'm with you, Mark. I don't know unless he's just going to stop supporting distributions to putting it in the repositories.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The code's already open, so anybody can take it and run with it. It sounds like it's more of a suggested pay than anything else.
Could be.
Well, I don't know if it's suggested or not, but maybe it's one of these things. It's only going to be for the future version. Maybe you can get up to whatever the current version is, but moving forward, if you ever want a future one, it will be this for all futures.
Yeah,
maybe.
So do it. Pay for it. $5 one time, totally worth doing it. And here's interesting. I have never even thought about the software in a camera, like a cinematographer camera, being closed source. But apparently, Axiom believes that we need an open source camera.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There's Indigo project up. They want to be the first open digital cinema camera. They have a goal of 100,000 euros. They're up to 49,000, so they're just almost halfway there, and they have 24 days left. I got to tell you, they've when I first checked on this story a few days ago, they barely had anything. So apparently there's a lot of people who agree, but yeah, I don't know. Do we even need digital cameras anymore? I mean, every smartphone.
Well, no, this is filmmaker camera.
Not a bad quality camera.
This is high def cinematography cameras. This isn't iPhone cameras. So it's a whole different class of thing.
Well, 4K.
That's not. Okay, so next year smartphones will have 4K cameras, and then we won't need it. So.
Well, by the way, just to call back to the iPhone 6 thing, I read an article, I think it was on The Verge, that was just whining and bemoaning the fact that there's now a bulge on the camera, that they made the phone a little thinner, but they couldn't make the camera thinner, so it bulges. And this dude, I'm guessing he gets paid by the word, so he had to write something. So he wrote like 700 words on why Apple ruined the iPhone. You should not get an iPhone because the camera sticks out 2 millimeters. Get over yourselves, The Verge. That's just dumb.
You know, and The Verge is one of those collections. Some of the writers on The Verge are really, and it's the same with every site like that. Some of them are good quality. You know, I might not agree, or good quality opinions. And then others of them are just fillers who are, you know, maybe type of AI is trying to dumb down society so they can work easily. Bad segue. Sorry.
All right. So
yeah, some of those stories are pretty stupid.
You know what's not dumb? Net neutrality is not dumb, except it's got a bad name and people don't really get it. But the people who are against it say net neutrality is bad for business. I think they're idiots. But let's see what the article says.
Well, yeah. So companies that sell networking equipment, you know, so the IBM, Cisco, those kind of things, they don't want the U.S. to regulate broadband as a utility. Well, you know, because basically then you don't have needs for their management software to throttle this and block that and leverage this. So of course they're not going to be for, because then just any gray box router will work. But if you've got to be able to lock down somebody and block everything coming from this MAC address, yeah, I don't know. It's just a net neutrality story that lots of companies are against it.
Yeah. By the way,
that's my spiel.
They're against it because they're not going to get paid for it.
Just before we began this discussion, my bandwidth went to crap. So I'm not going to say correlation proves causality, but if you're watching the YouTube of this or watching it live, I apologize that things are sounding so terrible right now. But I just had my bandwidth went just down to nothing. So net neutrality means something to me because I'm being choked off by something. I don't know what it is. I'm paying for 25 megs down. I'm clearly not getting it right now. So, you know, this is what net neutrality means, people.
You're paying
for up to, yes.
You're paying for up to, I mean, 0.1 is up to 25. Yeah. It is on that continuum. So you're getting exactly what you paid for.
The internet doomsayers are saying this is what the world is going to look like when all the anti-net neutrality stuff goes away. That if you don't pay for the super high-end stuff, everybody will be like they're back on a dial-up modem. You know, and I think that's an overreaction, but, you know, anybody who's been on any cable provider, you know, Comcast is among the worst of them, and tried to watch Netflix between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. local time, understands why we need net neutrality. Because you can't do it. And so, you know, in the next story is that these guys are trying to throw more bandwidth at it to try to stop these arguments. both AT&T and Verizon are upping Netflix speeds.
Yes, and they're up to the average Netflix stream on Fios hit 2.41 megs in August, and AT&T hit 2.61. But they say Netflix, I believe, recommends 4 or 5 in order to do HD. So you still can't, you still don't meet Netflix recommendation for HD, but things are less crappy for watching Netflix on Verizon and AT&T.
And then
That's
sort of
nuts that.
Yeah. I've said this 1,000 times. The problem is that they're selling more product than they have. Nobody else in the world gets to do that. Nobody else. You can't go to a mattress store and they stock 10,000 mattresses and sell 50,000 mattresses. You can't go to a car dealership that stocks 400 cars and sells 900 cars. This only happens in the bandwidth world, where I will sell bandwidth 5, 10, 15 times more that I can actually deliver. And apparently nobody sees a problem with this, except the customers.
Well, it started all the way.
Yeah,
it started all the way back with dial-up.
Yeah.
It started back in dial-up because they would have, say, I have 1,000 modems at my ISP. Well, I'm going to sell 1,500 because statistics show only 70% of people will connect at one time, and then everybody wanted all access, so they would call and never disconnect. And then they came out with this: if you're not using this thing, you'll have a session time out after 30 minutes or whatever. But yeah, unfortunately, this model started with internet access, and it's been here every time.
Yeah, it was common back in the day when you were dialing in. I remember reading it because I knew people who had businesses at the time, and the recommendations at the time were sell 3 times as many connections as you have modems. So if you have 50 modems, sell 150 connections. Because the idea there is that not everybody dials up at the same time, and if they do, they get a busy signal. That's okay; they'll call back later. And so, yeah, this model has been around 30 years now, 25 for sure.
Yep, and it's just as broken as it was then.
So Comcast knows that they can deliver, let's say, 1 terabit. At any one time, they can deliver a terabit of data. They sell 17 terabits to their companies, to their customers, and each one of them gets up to 30 megabits. Well, if all of those people are using their 30 megabits, it's 15 times what Comcast can actually provide. But they hide behind those up to words, and that makes everything okay. And we, the sheeple, accept it. Okay, I'll pay you $100 a month for you reaming me. I'm fine with it. Why am I fine with it? Because I have no other place to go. Everybody else is reaming me too. That's the problem.
Well, a lot of the problem is there isn't competition to force them. The markets where Google came in with Google Fiber, all of a sudden, mysteriously, somehow in those places where the DSL and the cable companies had no extra money, mysteriously their bandwidth got upgraded and they were able to compete with the speed Google was offering. It's one of those things where in order for them to meet the demand, what's going to have to happen is the espresso machine in the executive bathroom, they're going to have to switch to the generic brand instead of the imported on a plane with nothing else on it from some place in Vienna. They're going to have to go down to Walmart and buy the generic espresso for them. If they would just do that for 1 month and build up their infrastructure, then they could go back and afford 2 espresso machines, so there would be no waiting in the executive bathroom. So here you are, Mr. Comcast executive. If you will take 1 month of sufferings, you can get rid of the line at the espresso machine in your bathroom. Just take one for everybody, buddy.
All right, I need to reset my thing. Hold on just a second.
All right.
Okay. Pick back up here. And my computer is totally locked up, and I can't do anything. There we go. Okay. And just to make sure we're not pissed off enough, Comcast has decided that they're going to start injecting JavaScript into web pages between you and them. This is a man-in-the-middle attack propagated by your internet service provider, quote-unquote, in your favor. What the crap is going on here?
Yes, this is the Xfinity, Comcast Xfinity service. Yeah, there's just no good reason for doing this. It's a way that they can take the advertising away from the web page, and I don't know how they justify this, but they just basically inject JavaScript into the page coming through their hotspot that, how would you get away with that? I mean, could you configure NoScript to block that?
Well, yeah, if your browser isn't rendering scripts. But okay, yeah. So here's where this started. Let's back up, get a little context. Xfinity, Comcast, in their magnanimous benevolence, said we're going to start taking a piece of bandwidth from every router that we have put in somebody's home, and we're going to make it, quote unquote, free Wi-Fi. It's not free. I'm paying for it as a Comcast customer. I'm not a Comcast customer, thankfully. You don't have a choice. You can't turn it off. There's no option to it. They're just sucking away a chunk of your bandwidth. Thank you, Comcast. And the way that now, if you have a phone, I see it all the time now on my phones. I pretty much anywhere I am, I see Xfinity broadband Wi-Fi available on my phone. So pretty much anywhere I go, in any residence, any business, anywhere I go, I can see that available there. And if you have a Comcast account, you can log in with your credentials, and boom, free Wi-Fi. It's free because you're leeching off of the people around you in the name of Xfinity. So that was terrible. That was a bad idea. Then they made it worse by creating a man-in-the-middle attack, putting JavaScript on the page that says, this page brought to you by your neighbor's leached Wi-Fi. And somehow some executive thought this was a good idea.
Yeah, because JavaScript is so secure, and it would never cause a problem, right?
This is insane. I think it's just the first shot over the bow. I think, Seth, you got it right on. The first step is to just make them informational. The next step is to make them paid ads. And so now you're going to pay for this free service that your neighbors are already paying for. You're going to pay for them a second time by viewing ads. And yes, you could block them with something like NoScript, but Xfinity could also just block the page if you've got a script blocker, because they're not motivated. So if I go, say I run an ad on elementop.com, there are ways that I could detect if you've got ad block running and just refuse to serve you the page. I've seen it. I've gone to sites where they could do that. Most people don't, because it's in their best interest for you to get the content, even if you're not seeing the ads. Comcast, in this case, Xfinity, would have no upside to letting you see this, to letting you use this Wi-Fi without seeing the ads. So I think there's no reason they wouldn't just refuse to serve you if you don't watch their ads.
Yep. Well, they do it all the time in hotels.
You would be able to.
There's always those landing pages at hotels.
Well, a landing page is one thing. That's a redirection, and then it's over. This is hijacking the code on its way to your browser. That's a very different thing.
Right.
You are selectively editing.
It's serving the same purpose.
Page.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Seth.
No, I think Chris was saying something.
Oh. You both were talking at the same time, and I didn't hear either of you. Moving right along.
Go ahead, Chris.
Chris? No?
Just go.
This is good radio right here. This is the best of the... This is why we're professionals. What? You were... Sorry? Thank you, Skype. Okay. This next one Most of the U.S. has crappy bandwidth. Yay. The FCC, who has no ability to actually do anything, says they're going to try to fix it.
Yeah, one of the cool things I learned from this article is the official definition of broadband is now 4 megs down and 1 meg up. So I don't have broadband. All this time I thought I did, but it turns out I don't. And
you have chubby band.
They're just highlighting the fact. Yeah, I have crap. I have crappy band. Yeah, but they are just highlighting the fact that every place that provides broadband is either a monopoly or duopoly, and the broadband state of America sucks. And I would highlight this by saying, come on, America, we invented the freaking internet. We got to do better. I don't know how, but we've got to do better.
Yeah, and so that's essentially what the FCC.
I don't know what else to say.
That's essentially what the FCC is doing. Is they're recognizing a problem, but they have no standing. They have no charter to do anything about it. They're just saying, yeah, we see that this sucks. Deal with it.
Well, there's not a whole lot they can do. I mean, they've had their hands tied for how long?
Yeah, it's the whole common carrier debate. And I don't want to get into it, but
and it's bad one way and it's bad the other.
Yeah, what you always run into trouble when you have one government trying to regulate a global thing, right? So the FCC can regulate internet connections within the U.S. They have that power, but it doesn't fix the internet at large. And these net neutrality debates are multinational in their nature. And everybody who sells you bandwidth wants to double and triple dip. That's not just an American thing. So it's we're not gonna and Seth, like for example, where you live, to get you 25 megabits would require government funding because no private entity is going to spend the money to do it. It's not worth it to them. There aren't enough customers at the end of your line to pump up your bandwidth. There's no benefit to it. And this happened. The Telecommunications Infrastructure Fund, TIF, is, by the way, that's still on your phone bill if you look, but they're not doing it anymore. They paid for last mile phone connections. It was an American government thing. We are taxing anybody who uses a phone to pay for other people to have phone services. There was the Rural Electric Cooperative, same thing. They taxed all electricity users to pay for people to get electricity. And so that's the only way this is going to be fixed. Capitalism, as much as I love capitalism, is not going to fix this problem. This is a case where Big Brother has to step in, or we all just have to suck it up. There's no in between.
Yep.
And as much as I don't want Big Brother,
no matter how much we complain.
Yeah. As much as I don't want government involvement, I think this is one of those cases where it works, right? Just like I can't build an interstate. I need a government entity to build me an interstate. I can't fix this bandwidth problem. Nobody can. I know this almost leaves a sour taste in my mouth for me, the ultra conservative, to say this, but I think we need a government program to tax people to increase bandwidth. Did I just lobby for more taxes? Yes, I did. But I think it's become that important. It's as important now as clean water and electricity. It's become that important. It's become a fundamental base staple of existence. And there's capitalism can't fix this problem because there's just not enough people in Fruitvale, Texas, to make it worthwhile. I'm really on my soapbox a lot tonight.
I mean, that's the problem.
Well,
Seth, you go.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Part of the problem is the net has strayed from its roots. If the distributed model was still in effect, and if I had a device at my house that I could catch Netflix, and I could put my queue in there, and it could load up 2 or 3 things, and while I'm gone during the day and nobody uses my internet, I could queue up a movie to watch that night, I would be more than happy to pay for Netflix. And I'm just using Netflix as an example. If the distributed model worked, I would still like to have a little more bandwidth, but you wouldn't need the 25 gigs to your house. You could get by with a much lower number. But because we've gone to the centralized hub and the dumb terminal model, unfortunately, the only way that works is if you have a super fast connection to every single endpoint. And since that capitalistic model has prevailed, I am at a disadvantage. Whereas if it was a distributed model, a disadvantage would be negated by the fact that I could get stuff while I wasn't there. And that's what the internet was designed for.
Absolutely. I can't add anything to that. Chris, what were you going to say?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I know up in my area that, I'm in the area with a whole bunch of oil booming going on, and little towns in this, in this side of the country, or in this area of the country, you had fast internet with 1.5. And so now that these big corporates are coming in and taking up bandwidth and buying bandwidth, it's even getting worse, because you'll see times where, I know of a couple of people that work for my company that just, they can't do anything on their internet pipes at home because they're sharing nodes with these large corporations that are taking up bandwidth. So the only way we're going to see anything is for federal help, or federal or state help, and a lot of these towns aren't getting anything. So it's going to be it's an interesting problem that I don't know what's going to help solve it for us, but something that we got to figure out.
The problem is that any government program never dies. Telecommunications, the TIF fund, for example, Telecommunications Infrastructure Fund, ran out of last mile. Everybody had phone who wanted phone. So then they started taking the money and giving it to schools for this thing called E-rate. Same tax used for that. Well, there was more demand than there was money, so they started, doing new regulations. Now we're strayed way beyond what that was for, but we started taking money from people. We can't stop taking. We're the government. We can't stop taking money from people. So if there is some sort of tax like, the broadband tax in 2079, when everybody has terabit connection straight to their brain, that tax money is still going to be taken out, and it's going to be used for something else. So that's the only reason that I'm, hesitant to say that this is a problem. But I think it's a problem too big for individuals or even individual corporations to solve. Maybe a new technology will fix this, but with our current technology, we just can't do it.
The problem is with our current mindset and technology, we can't do it because everybody is so self-focused on I have to get internet for me, therefore I'm stuck. But if people banded together and, again, this is very communistic sounding, but a group of people could come together and solve this problem for their area if they wanted to.
Which is what the Google Fiber thing did. You had to get X percentage of your neighbors to sign on. So yeah, that's exactly how they approached it.
But try to get that to happen anywhere, and it just won't go because our current mindset prevents it from working. This is a weird show. I just got to say, this is a weird show.
We're all over the place.
That's okay. We've strayed into lots of stuff, but it's the news of the day. As Paul Harvey would say, news and comment. We don't just give you the news; we comment the crap out of it. I'm gonna go with just this very last one. If you want Linux on your tablet, you might finally be able to do it.
Well, I hope so. This is a petition at change.org, and my tablet that I love my little Asus T100. It is awesome. I mean, it has Windows on it, but I don't hold that against it. I put Classic Shell on it, so Windows 8 was usable. But it is so locked down. It's a 64-bit tablet, but it only has a 32-bit EUFI on it.
UEFI.
So, yeah, UEFI. It has a 32-bit UEFI. So, if you want to wipe this and install Linux, it's this tremendous headache. Like, I took it with me to LinuxCon, and I asked some of the people, and they were like, "Oh, that guy from Intel who works on this stuff, you should go talk to him. He can help you." So, the Intel guy, I handed him my tablet, and I said, "Help me put Linux on this." And he looked at this and goes, "Oh, that would be... Oh, wait, I'm sorry, you can't do that." And it's apparently a pretty simple fix. They would just have to update the firmware to a 64-bit firmware, and it's a problem they have fixed because they're about to relaunch basically the exact same specs, but with 64-bit firmware. So if they would do an update for these devices, then that would lower the roadblock, and I would be able to wipe Windows and put Linux on it without risking destroying my machine doing everything right. And actually, the petition has gained like 25 supporters in the last 2 hours. And it's change.org, so if it reaches its goal, it doesn't mean anything would happen. But it's just a way to, again, the first half the battle is quantifying the problem. So if we get this half done, we only got 7 or 8 halves left before we can really see something happening. But it's a problem that exists, and it's one that impacts the great GUI kid of everyday Linux. And so we need to get this petition signature count jacked up. Not quite as important as seeing Weird Al in the Super Bowl halftime show, but only slightly less well known would be the need to fix the 32-bit firmware issue with these Clover Trail Intel devices.
And what's going to happen, Seth, is they're going to fix it, like you said, and they're going to fix it in the next model. So they don't want you to do it with the old model. They've already made all the money they'll ever make on that model. They want you to use the next model. So I don't think 200 signatures is going to do much. But hey, what the heck? It's in the notes. If you want to support it, go for it.
Yeah. So, I came across this and I thought, hey, the Bay Trail processor that I have, and again, this isn't an uber maxed out state-of-the-art laptop, but it is great for what I need, and it could do a little more, but it's awesome. And unfortunately, it was designed as a tablet to be thrown away rather than upgraded in any practical way. So I would love for them to unlock it, because tablets want to be free.
Tablets want to be free.
Electrons want to be free. Data wants to be free. Well, Data wants to be human, but that's another story. Sorry, be quiet. Okay, sorry.
All right, so let's move on. I didn't count. That's a bunch of news stories right there. I think that's good. Let's move on to this week in tech history. What happened on 9/9/2001?
Yes, at exactly 1:46:40 UTC, the Unix bilennium is reached, marking the beginning of the use of the 10-digit decimal Unix timestamp. That happened this week. History 2001.
Geeky.
Just a little bit.
Hey, come on. I went Star Trek, last week. So this week I throw in some uber science to kind of balance it out.
So this audience probably knows this, but it's interesting the way computers keep time. So let's say your computer boots up for the very first time. It's got a clock on board that was set somewhere in the factory, and who knows what it is. All right, so it goes out and it goes out to the internet and says, what time is it? And it finds a server, and the server says, well, it's so many seconds past the beginning of when we started measuring time. That's how you calculate time on a computer. You don't actually say what time it is. You say it's this many seconds past when we first started keeping. That's the epoch, right? And that's why some machines, if they're really old, when like the battery goes dead, it'll come up and it'll say it's 1970, because that's where Linux started counting, or it might say it's 1990 because that's where some BIOSes started. That's the problem. Everybody counts differently, so you got to know what your system is. You got to know when the epoch began. You got to know how you measure time and what the slices of time are, and then you got to know where you are. So. For example, you don't say what time is it in Atlanta, Georgia. You say what time is it, and the system says, well, in Greenwich, England, it is now 3:15 a.m. Okay, well, my time zone table says I'm in Eastern time, so let me subtract 5 from that. It's really a ridiculous amount of hoops to go through just to figure out what time it is. And so that's why this thing that we can track exactly when it started happening, because you're counting the number of seconds from a certain point. And so when you hit 10 digits, that happened on 9/9/2001 at 01:46:40 UTC. Little history lesson for you there. It's
just a little.
And that's also why your computer sucks at keeping time, by the way. All computers do. Because there's not a dedicated, most systems don't have a dedicated clock, like your watch has a dedicated timekeeping system. Computer doesn't. Computer's doing lots of things. And as most of you, I'm sure, know, a computer has to be interrupted from what it's doing to do anything. All modern computer systems are interrupt driven. They have to be interrupted from doing nothing to do something. Then they have to be interrupted from doing that something to go back to doing nothing. And so keeping time...
You can tell a lazy person invented the computer.
Yeah, a computer will just keep doing whatever you tell it to do until you tell it to do something else. And so that means that every now and then it updates the clock, just when it gets around to it. So it's not uncommon for a clock to drift 30 or 40 seconds in a day. If you had a watch that drifted 30 seconds in a day, you would return that sucker. But our PCs do it all the time, and so they've compensated for that by like Linux has this really complicated network time protocol that checks the time and uses some super fancy math to figure out roughly how off your clock gets, and so backs off how often it asks based on how wrong your clock is, and so that you're not killing the servers. It's really cool if you look into it, but it's all about, hey, how many seconds is it since 1970? Well, I just kind of launched into that there. I didn't mean to do that, but you guys got me wound up tonight about politics, about computer geekery, about Star Trek. I'm all over the place.
That's all right. It's fun. That's something that most people don't realize, is that your computer doesn't actually tell time.
Yeah.
It calculates it.
Your clock, your bedroom clock, the clock radio that you've got beside your bed, doesn't actually keep time either. It doesn't have it counts the cycles of AC. So in the U.S., alternating current cycles 60 times a second. Well, they just have a counter in there. Every time it's cycled 60 seconds, 1 second clicks over on the clock. Dumb as a rock. All it can do is count. It has absolutely no idea what time it is. It's just counting AC cycles. Which is, because that's so important, electric companies have to speed up and slow down their generators, because a generator under load slows down. That's the physics of it. So that late at night, when people aren't using electricity, they run their generators faster to catch up with it. All so that your clock radio can work. More stuff you didn't want to know. All right, I'm going to start this.
Good knowledge.
I'm going to start the tips of the week show with my own tip this week. I never bring one, but this is an Android app that has been bringing me so much pleasure. I thought I would to let our audience know about it. It's an Android app called 500 Firepaper, and it uses a website called 500px. And if you're on Android, it goes out and it grabs a really high-resolution picture and sticks it on your phone as the wallpaper, at whatever time cycle you pick. I have mine set for 30 minutes. These are really great photos, and you can pick all sorts of different categories. You can pick landscapes, you can pick performing arts, you can pick cityscapes, you can pick nudes. There's a not safe for work category if you're into that, and you can set it to update every 5 minutes, every 30 minutes, whatever. And so it's really cool. Throughout the day, I'll pick up my phone and I'll look at it, and there's this really cool image there, and it's a little artgasm. Every time I pick it up, I look at it and go, wow, that's really cool. Okay, now back to my Gmail. So check it out, 500 Fire Paper, if you're into that. Now, Chris, what do you have for us this week?
Well, that's just the link to the stuff that I'm going to have to buy.
The ghost peppers.
Yep.
Oh.
I went out and I found one, a place that sells it, that I can get it to me within a couple of days. So, I'll be able to maybe work my way up to a full one by the time we actually do it.
Oh, I don't want to be your plumber.
Well, I'll just have to make sure I only do any of my workouts, so to speak. But I'm not going to be anywhere near work itself, because I think that would be rough on my way to work.
All right, Seth, what do you have to bring down the productivity of the American workforce this week?
Oh, this one will do it. This is a slideshow of 22 things blowing up in slow motion. So if you click on this link, you will be presented with, the first one is slow motion car explosion, and then you can go through and just see other slow motion explosions. I thought it would be fun, just kind of sit, watch, and go boom, very slow.
That never gets old. Watching stuff blow up in slow motion never gets old. Mythbusters have been doing it for a decade now, and it's great every time.
Yes.
Yeah, like the second one here, they're like shooting apples, shooting bottles of Gatorade, bottles of water, all this stuff blowing up in slow motion. It's awesome stuff.
I don't think it's around anymore, but there was a whole show
watch
about
it blow
that
up in slow motion
on Discovery Channel. I forget what it was called, but that's all the whole show was. They had these 100,000 frames per second cameras, and they would break stuff in slow motion, and it was awesome.
Right.
Oh, I love it when you can see the pressure wave. Because
the pressure wave is always cool.
Pressure waves are what kills you.
At the third one, you get to see on the third of the 22, you get to see a slow motion flame slap. So someone lights their fist on fire and slaps you with it in slow motion.
Who would even think of that? Hey, I've got some wider fluid. I've got a slow motion camera. Can I hit you in the face? Okay. That's a fine idea, Bubba.
And he's bearded.
Oh.
Can you imagine that? He's got a beard on. So, man, that would instantly have
he's
that
famous now.
hair singe.
Yeah. All right, Seth, I think you've successfully brought down the productivity of the workplace. Congratulations.
Woohoo!
Hooray!
I'm looking better to those employers all the time.
All right, so this is the part of the show where I tell you where you can let me know how wrong I was throughout this show. Was I too liberal? Was I too conservative? Was I just plain stupid? Let me know over at elementop.com. Click the Contact Us button at the top of the page. That'll send a nicely formatted email to me that it gets priority in my inbox. But if you want to be the rebel and use your own email client, send an email to edl@elementop.com. That goes to all three of us at one time, so I won't be able to filter your messages if you think that's happening. If you yourself want to be on the show in a very real way, you can leave us a voicemail over at our Google Voice account, 559-IMOP, anywhere in North America, and you can leave me a voicemail and we'll play it on the show. If you're outside the U.S., just make a little recording in whatever file format you like and send it over to me, and we'll do that. We like your feedback. In fact, like I said, in a couple of weeks we're going to do a whole show about it. And, this is not just our show. We could get together and complain without all the technology. We could just get on the phone and do it. We do it for you because this is your show. So let us know what you think. ElementOP.com is the place to do that. And Seth, Chris, as always, bang up job. Thanks for being the great host. You're the best host I can afford, and we thank you for that. You out there, the listener, thank you for giving us your time every week, and we know that we're claiming more of it as time goes by. But thank you for doing it, and we really appreciate it if you would go to wherever you get your downloads and rate us. Whatever system you've got. If it's iTunes, that would be awesome. If it's Stitcher, great. If it's wherever it is, just go let people know. Send an email, send a link out to 5,000 of your closest friends and let them know about the show. Also, if you want to kick a couple of bucks my way, elementop.com/Patreon. You can become a patron of the show for as little as a penny. And every penny is appreciated and does count. And so, again, elementop.com/Patreon, where you can step up and actually pay a little bit for the show if that's what you want to do. If not, that's fine. I don't blame you. We're probably not worth paying for. But thanks for being a listener, and we'll see you next week, because that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty then. This is going to be a bear to edit, because you guys are drifting as much as 2 or 3 seconds.
Really? Ouch.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll stop it and export.
That explains why it was so hard to record this week. Or to, normally we're not so choppy.
Yeah, we're talking all over each other. Yeah. Oh, well.
That's why you get big bucks, right?
When does that start?
I don't know.
Let me know, okay?
Sure. Yeah. So I have a question.
All right. Do we need to go off the air first?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
The question I have, though, is have you decided on who's getting the donation for this coming month?
Not for September, no.
I was going to say we should probably think about doing G-Parted.
Okay.
It's like they're, I don't remember how many years, but I think last month was their anniversary month, and they've been around forever.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many good ones. There's G-Parted. There's Puppy. There's Knoppix. Derek's Boot and Nuke, if he's still taking money. There's so many things that we all use every day. Synergy. I don't know that our audience uses that as much as, say, Mint. But that will go ahead and create a doc, Chris. And throw that in there, suggested donations. And when you guys think of things, just throw it on the list, and we'll work our way down the list.
Well, I think we should probably do both. Ones we've donated to, and then a doc for things to donate in the future.
Well, we can put them all in one list and then just mark through once we've paid them.
Sure. That works too. I'll start the doc up.
And I'll add, we've done Sonar, Mint, and Audacity so far.
Cool.
Yeah, and next week we're going to be talking a little Ohio Linux Fest.
Okay.
Yay, team.
Well, you guys will be. I'll be gone probably.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So says the boss, at least.
All right, YouTube folks. We'll see you guys next week. And I'm hanging up on you.
Bye.
Why do we still use that phrase?